It is finally time. After years of waiting, it's finally starting to happen. Yeah, remember that Fallout TV show that was announced? It was really exciting and cool, and then we heard absolutely nothing for 2 years? Well, things are actually happening now, and a lot more is going to start happening over the next couple of months. And the timing on this video is perfect, if I say so myself, because tomorrow it'll actually be exactly 2 years since this TV show was revealed. And just recently we've been getting some pretty big updates and even some leaks on the show because yes, it is finally happening and filming is beginning. This is being made for Amazon and being produced by Todd Howard and Kilter Films. Todd Howard, of course, directed the recent Fallout games, but Kilter Films is best known for their involvement with Westworld. And in fact, the Westworld showrunners are going to be the core people behind the Fallout TV show. One of the interesting pieces of news to come out around this show as of late is the casting, as that has been happening. One of the first notable characters cast in the show is Walton Goggins. We don't know exactly what role he will be playing, but we do know it's going to be a lead role, so you're going to be seeing his face a lot throughout this TV show. And he could even be the main protagonist of the series overall. I actually think he'd make a pretty good ghoul character. Shortly after this, Ella Purnell was also cast in a lead role. She was just recently in Arcane, so this is yet another video game adaptation show she'll be a part of, and is described as perhaps playing another lead character with Jean, a young woman with a can-do attitude who may be hiding a dangerous secret. And earlier this week, we actually saw several additional people cast in the show as series regulars. And to be completely honest, I've never heard of any of these people, but perhaps I just need to watch more TV shows. So all of this is pretty exciting, in particular if you're a fan of any of these actors, but to me, what has been a bit more exciting is the updates on the setting of this show, as it seems like filming is beginning or actually has begun in different parts of the US. And just recently we saw a general casting call for raiders to play kind of backup characters in this show. People to play raiders of underground bunkers in a future post-apocalyptic world, looking for people to play ages 20 to 50, survivors of an apocalyptic event who are sinewy or are very muscular, heights 5'11" and below, looking for amputees, people with tattoos and or scars as well. And the notable part about this all is not only that there's raiders and underground vault-like things, but it's actually filming in Brooklyn and the greater New York City area overall. And although Brooklyn, great place in its own right, it's actually a pretty large reveal in that filming in New York is neither simple nor cheap. Many times, if all you need is a filming location that is going to be in an urban setting, you could film in somewhere that isn't New York City. So the fact that they are actually choosing to film in and around New York City to me says that New York City may be its own sort of character in this show. The setting of New York will be very relevant here. Now, as a bit of a counterpoint to that, over the past few years, this has been changing somewhat as more and more people are filming in New York. There's tax credits, etc. But overall, it definitely would be pretty surprising to me to film in New York and not actually have New York City be relevant to that filming location. And there may have even been a bit of a minor leak around all of this, as there is a random Reddit post in the Star Wars leak subreddit of all places. A supposed lighting tech talks about building part of the set for the Fallout New York filming locations and goes on to describe how filming has already started out west, I think Montana, for all of the exterior scenes. They have 3 massive stages in Brooklyn where they built the vault sets. I'm working next door and took a peep inside. Looks amazing, just like the game. Then finally they have the volume built at Gold Coast out on Long Island. There's some follow-up questions asking if it'll be pre or post-war or both, and how they don't want it to violate his NDA. He says, "No worries, I'm not in the shoe. I didn't sign an NDA, LOL. I know for sure they're shooting wasteland stuff in the desert. I would imagine they show some pre-war stuff as well." And this all seems to paint a pretty interesting picture, a pretty extensive mix of urban to rural. He largely describes how a lot of the filming in Brooklyn is done on these vault sets. So one, it seems like we will have a vault setting, which isn't shocking. You definitely see it'd be interesting to have a contrast going from inside the vault to a post-apocalyptic exterior. But that does make me wonder, why is that occurring in New York if all you're doing is filming inside pre-made sets? Why are you filming in Brooklyn, where you could just film all of this in Montana on a pre-made set? So I do still have a suspicion that there could be something else going on in the broader New York area, but it could be a situation where Brooklyn is actually pre-war. New York City is where this main character lived before the war. They went into a vault. Now they have a bunch of scenes being shot in the vault, and then as they leave the vault, they go outside into the desert because everything got largely wiped out, or some mix of that. Perhaps there's even multiple storylines going on here, because if you do go from Montana to Brooklyn, that's about as extreme a jump you can get from completely rural to completely urban. Although obviously Manhattan's going to be significantly more built up than Brooklyn. And as far as some more concrete details, as far as the overall feel of this show, we get an interesting description from the showrunner Lisa Joy in an interview given about 10 months ago. They described how it's a gonzo crazy funny adventure and mind F like none you've ever never seen before. Further describing how, it's just ridiculously baller and I can't wait. It's totally irreverent and mad and humorous and just insane. It's just insane. And I gotta be honest, I'm not totally sure what to make of that. Those are definitely not the most reassuring quotes ever. It almost sounds like they're describing a Euphoria trip here in a way, or even just some wild wasteland-esque encounters. Like, the show overall will be over the top and hilarious with the type of encounters our main protagonist will have. And I imagine one of the ways this contrast could work is you're gonna have somebody who has a very boring life, maybe a desk job, nothing super interesting before the war, before the apocalypse. So you have some pre-war stuff, then they'll go into the vault, have whatever experiences in there, then they'll leave the vault and have what is going to be a very big contrast. They're going to have to put themselves out there, take on new challenges that will be crazy and wild. In all likelihood, there'll be some kind of sidekick that is very brave and handles things much better. We will see how this will continue to evolve and how more can be uncovered, as things are really just starting to kick off now. But personally, I do have a ton of faith in Lisa Joy and Jonathan Nolan. And yes, Jonathan Nolan is the brother of Christopher Nolan. Westworld is one of my favorite shows of all time, and Over the Top hasn't really been a kilter film staple. They tend to have a more grounded and even introspective approach to sci-fi. So to hear this description of the Fallout TV show is definitely surprising to me, and I wonder if I'm maybe just misinterpreting it. Perhaps the Fallout TV show will have some instances that are almost like The Boys, with a juxtaposition that is so over the top and dark it almost has a humor to it at points. And one other aspect that I think is worth bringing up is we almost got a New York Fallout, and now that we hear about a Fallout TV show being filmed in New York, you have to wonder, is that a coincidence, or perhaps is there some overlap in those stories? Before Fallout 4 became a full-fledged thing, they were planning to make Fallout 4 in New York instead of Boston, and it was even described in past interviews how there was basically a one-page design document over this hypothetical Fallout New York. I had speculated in the past that this would be the location for Fallout 5, but maybe now, as they're looking to write and create a TV show, they went back to some of those stories or some of the ideas they had behind a Fallout New York and decided, hey, why don't we try and employ them in a TV show as opposed to a Fallout 5? Or maybe it was never the plan for Fallout 5, and instead it's just what could have been Fallout 4 is now getting the TV show treatment. Obviously, Todd Howard is intimately involved in both projects, so this doesn't even seem all that far-fetched to me. I have seen some speculation of people saying, well, what if this means that Fallout 5 will be in New York? Fallout 5 is going to be very far away. We'll probably get the Fallout TV show a good 5, 6, 7 years even before Fallout 5 releases, so I doubt there'll be much connection between the two, although it does make me wonder if there'll be any connections between the Fallout TV show and Fallout 76. A lot of games do have minor tie-ins like this, and if there really is a Fallout New York setting, having an expedition per se in New York could be a pretty cool way to integrate that. Either way, those are some of the updates on the Fallout TV show, and the exciting part is we'll probably be getting a lot more updates over the next couple of months, and maybe even be able to watch this thing in the next year or so. As always, again though, I thank you all for watching. I do hope you enjoyed this one, but with that, I hope to see you all next time. Later.